Welcome to UC Today with me, David Dungay. I'm joined today by two members of the UK Wildix team, Mr. Ian Rowan and Rob Loakes. Welcome to the show, guys. How are you doing today?
Hi, David.
Well, good. Thanks for having us today.
Thank you.
Fantastic. So today we're going to be talking about the informal contact centre and what that is and the opportunity around that type of contact centre. But before we get into that conversation, should we do a few introductions? Ian, Rob, who wants to go first? Tell us a little bit about yourself and the business. Ian, do you want to start us off there?
Yes. So I'll start with myself. So I'm Ian Rowan. I'm one of the senior channel managers here at Wildix UK. Been with the company since we started in the UK. Been in telecoms for far too long to give away my age to everybody here. But yeah, it's all I've ever done. Love our industry, and we've been really successful growing a great channel in the UK with our partners.
Fantastic. And Rob?
Yeah, myself, I've been with Wildix in the UK since the beginning. Worked with actually Ian for quite a long time in previous roles. Again, been in the industry quite a while. And yeah, excited to be here today.
Fantastic. So the informal contact centre, what defines this particular type of contact centre? Ian, do you want to kick us off?
Yeah, so for me, I would say a contact centre is just any collection of people, whether they're working together, remotely, whatever, that are focused on taking calls. Informal just means it's a little less regimented, so people can hopefully choose a break when they want based on what they've got available to them. I think it's more down to perception. You know, people think contact centre is a bit like a battery hen where they're sat there for 8 hours a day, force-fed calls continually. And they're still measured in the same way, but it's just using those measurements differently to how you'd use them in that formal environment.
Fantastic. So why are we seeing such a rise in this type of contact centre today in the current environment? Rob?
Well, I think as a consumer today, they've got the internet at their disposal. They can find things a lot faster, a lot more easier. And it's now more important than ever for customer service to be at its highest, purely on that basis. I mean, long gone are the days now where you pick up your yellow pages, you'd look at your local garage or your local electrician and you'd contact them and they'd be the only person you trust to get a quote. Typically, people will just pick up their mobile phone today. They'll have a look online. And it's not even one business, potentially. It could be 3, 4, 5. And they're using them and they're looking at ratings online of them. And not just ratings, they'll use them to benchmark and get an idea of what they should be paying. So consumers are way, way more educated. It's even more important to ensure that these calls or chat requests that are coming in, you've got the staff and the correct staff as well with the right key skills answering these questions. Again, to ensure maximum customer service and not being able to see them potentially if they're working from home or even if they're in an office environment is the same as you and you can't see them. You need to ensure that they're available and they're available at the right times to take those calls. And I mean, as we just said there, I've been in the industry a while. And if I go back to when I was selling directly back in the day, I had quite a close relationship with the Education Trust. And I used to get quite a lot of deals with schools, purely just really based on referrals, if anything, and been really successful at it. Again, now IT managers of primary schools, secondary schools, colleges, whatever it may be, clusters, they're going online. They know what they want. They're already educated, and they're just going through the list and contacting people. And if they were to ring somebody and they don't answer the phone, they probably won't ring you a second time, and they'll just go to the next one. And again, this information is far easily accessible today. And I mean, if you look at customer services, you're not giving the customer service they expect. They'll just move on. They're not tied into these long-term agreements anymore with their telephony. As an example, 7-year agreements. People are buying reoccurring models now. They're buying shorter terms, monthly, annually. So even more, it's imperative that you keep customer service high, because they'll just leave because they're not in these long-term contracts and they'll just go on to somebody else that's going to provide a better service. And even more, there's a risk that they'll leave a bad review online of you. Again, potentially resulting in you not getting any further business.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think we've all got into that sort of buying habit, if you like, of looking at those reviews. You know, they are very, very important. I want to talk about features now, what customers are asking for. Obviously, Wildix, your platform, you have lots of different types of contact center features available there. But what are your customers demanding from their informal contact centers in terms of those features? Ian, do you want to have a go at that one?
Yeah, the demands are no different to those in the formal contact centre. It's about visibility and accountability and availability, right? So being able to see when people are available and managing the teams accordingly. If somebody is not performing within the team, the accountability on that individual to make sure that they're being addressed and maybe given the help that they need more in an informal way than if you're not available in the formal way. Obviously, it's not help. They're giving you maybe punishment. So you've got your accountability, visibility, and then just making sure you've got everybody there and everybody's able to see who's within that team. Maybe sometimes using that team information within the team to know that, because I can decide when I go on break. It's not regimented, like I have to put my hand up to say I'm going to go to the bathroom. I can see for myself, I can look at the information that I've got and decide, okay, now's a good time for me to go to a break. And using that information, whether it be within a platform, whether it's wallboards, there's stuff that the contact centres have, but just using it in a more informal way. So it's exactly the same tools that they're using in the formal contact centre, but just using those tools slightly different to empower the people within those environments to make more educated choices about what they should be doing and when they should be doing it.
Yeah. What about...
I don't see there's any difference in the tools that they use.
Yeah. Okay. So in terms of challenges today, obviously we're all sitting in this hybrid / remote working world. What are those big challenges for not just businesses but also those agents you talk about there, Ian? Rob, do you want to have a go at that one?
From a tech perspective, for us, Wildix, there is no real challenge. As you know, you can simply log on from any device as long as you've got connectivity and have the same sort of collaboration feel, if you like. All providing like the ability to call, video, screen share, file share, etc., all from a single interface. However, from a perspective of making sure, agents having access to the same information, I suppose as a contact manager would in a formal contact environment, in an informal contact environment, that is imperative. That is so important to provide them, if they're working remotely in an informal contact centre, having access to things like Ian just said there, wallboards, having full visibility of their own team members, seeing things if they're in a wrap-up state, even things like team SLAs, individual SLAs, are they hitting those, etc. They're all really important things. I actually read somewhere last week that the whole of the UK employment that are employed currently, over 4% of them work for a contact centre environment of some form.
Wow. Which
is massive. And as Ian mentioned earlier about formal contact centres and being quite regimented, if people need to go to the bathroom, they need to contact their line manager or their floor manager, say, oh, can I go to the bathroom, please? Or I want to take a comfort break, or I want to go on lunch. These are all things that I need to get permissions to do. From an informal contact centre working at home, I haven't got the eyes glaring on me, although people can see statistics, and when I'm taking those calls, there's nothing stopping me taking a phone call. There's nothing stopping me answering a doorbell from an Amazon delivery driver. And let's face it, everybody gets probably 2, 3, or if you're my wife, probably 8 or 10 deliveries a day. So those are the really the key differences. But again, ensuring that they've got the tools to see the same information as if they're in a formal contact centre environment. And there's also little things that we do as well with our hardware. So we've got a headset that supports presence. So in a formal contact centre environment, I can actually see visually if somebody's on the phone through an LED indication on the headset. So it will glow red. If somebody's available, it will glow green. Even if I was to go into a wrap-up state, it would put me into a D&D state. So it will actually glow violet on my headset. So we do things very differently. But I can also put that into an informal contact centre working from home with that headset as well. So if my kids come into my home office, or my wife does, they can instantly see if I'm on a phone call. So, in the hybrid world, I suppose, or the fully remote world, there should be zero technical changes, especially with the technology we've got today. Let's face it. The only challenges, and perhaps the most important thing, It's how we look after those staff that are working remotely.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a really, really important point, actually. And, you've touched on information there and, data increasingly becoming important, not just in the informal contact centre, but everywhere in that sort of hybrid workplace, if you like. But, Ian, I want to come to you on that. How can things like monitoring of this data help, performance and maybe, agent retention?
Well, that's a biggie, actually, isn't it, at the moment? I think everybody's aware of how bad mental health has been as an issue for many, many people. I was reading something like Rob the other day, we like to read up. I think 1 in 4 people at some point in their life will suffer from some sort of mental illness. The biggest two are depression and anxiety. If you've got somebody scrutinising your work from the moment you start to the moment you finish, then that anxiety is just going to keep rising and rising and rising. So it can't be used in that way for when people are working remotely, if you want to look after your staff and retain staff. Another thing that happens when people work remotely, and I think we're all guilty of this, is that you start a little bit earlier. You might put the kettle on in the morning, you log on and you start doing a little bit already, and then you probably don't take your breaks, you don't have your hour for lunch because there's just you. End of the day, you do exactly the same. You don't clock off at 5 o'clock as the office is shutting and the cleaners are coming in. Your working hours become extended, and it may be that you do an hour before and an hour after. And a boss might look at that and going, okay, I'm getting a bit more extra out of that person, and it's saving me this much money. A couple of things will happen is one, that person's personal performance will start to decline because they'll start to burn out. You can't maintain that level of work consistently when you're doing that many hours. The second thing that will happen to that individual, if they do manage to retain their performance, is they'll equate their hours they're actually working back to a different hourly rate to what they're getting paid. So if suddenly I'm meant to be doing 37 hours, but I'm suddenly doing 57 hours, then I'm still getting paid exactly the same amount of money. And the agent will start looking at that to say, okay, I'm now being underpaid for the work that I'm doing far too many hours. We've got the tools there. And those tools shouldn't just be used to maximise the availability of people and make sure that our customers are okay. They should be used primarily in a lot of informal contact centres to make sure that our staff are okay, to make sure that they're not logging in before they should be started, to make sure they are taking their breaks through the day, to make sure they're clocking off at the right time. It might seem bizarre that you're instructing your staff to do that. For some managers, that will seem so alien, and to say, okay, you're finished for the day, go home, or please don't give me anything extra, I don't want anything extra from you. But in reality, what you'll find is their performance will just keep increasing or stay at the level that you expect from them because they're not suffering from that burnout. We have to be so aware of mental illness, and the worst thing to do is stick somebody at home, stick a headset on them and force feed them calls 8 hours a day. All you're going to do is give yourself a time bomb, effectively. So use the tools that you've got, not to scrutinise the staff, but to make sure that you're giving them the service that they should get from you as your staff member. Look after them like a family. We're all family, right? You spend more time with your people that you work with than you do with anybody else.
100%.
Unfortunately, I have to work with Rob.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, so for me, I think, it's employee experience, isn't it? It all comes underneath that banner, and it's very, very important, as you say. I want to talk about.
It's an easy thing to fall into, isn't it? Of just working too much.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we've all fallen foul of that at one time or another as well. I do want to talk about your partner ecosystem. We're seeing a lot of partners come into this space. Obviously in this hybrid world, lots of opportunities for maybe some of those partners that haven't sold UC or contact center type technology before. In terms of skills, though, what kind of skills do partners need, and do they need those contact center specialist skills to sell these kind of informal contact centers today? Rob, do you want to take that one?
Yeah, I'll take it. Yeah, no problem. I mean, it's not with everything, David. It's all dependent on the product. It can be as complex or as simple as you want it to be. With our inbound contact center, Excarical, it is really simple. And again, it's all within one single interface. There's no third-party applications that complicate things, installing, you're talking to another phone system. It's fully embedded in our solution, and it's completely our own product. And again, all accessible within collaboration. We have reporting as well that in the contact centre world will do 99% of what people need it to do. So things like multiple call queues, monitoring multiple call queues, reporting on calls via distribution in those queues, things like answered and unanswered calls, again, setting SLAs against those, missed and abandoned calls. We can really drill down on those reports and then obviously export them and share them with who need it to be shared with. Because it is full agent reporting as well. It's full cradle to the grave. So when a call comes into a queue, it's got the full journey all the way through to when that call was terminated. And we can even drill down and really granularize it against the report as well, and not just look at days or weeks or months. We can even look at hours as well and export those reports against it. So I suppose the question is, why would they need additional skills? It's not a black art, is the answer. It's only really as complex as vendors want to make it. The thing is that we see, and the big benefit with Wildix is we keep things simple. We don't make things complicated, because the second you start to do that, people A will start to stop using them, or B look for a way to simplify them. And then again, ultimately, because they're too complicated, they won't use it. So we just have to keep things simple.
Fantastic.
Can I just add to that as well? We also partner with an external organisation called Value Selling, who train people on how to sell against a business issue and a business problem. And the issue tends to relate to money. The issue tends to relate to missed calls. And whether that's a florist, a big multinational contact centre, it's the same methodology that applies across all of that. The way to address that business issue and relate it back to a problem, and then solve that problem with technology. And that's all we're about, right? Solving problems. And that then enables our partners to make a lot of money.
There you go.
Fantastic. So we're going to be talking a little bit more about your partners and the importance of a channel in our next video. So we'll leave that there. So we're almost at the end of today's session, but I want to get a bit of a forward-looking statement from you. Maybe Ian, you want to take this one? I mean, we are in a hybrid world. A lot has changed in the last 2 years. I mean, how do you see the informal contact centre evolving over, this year and maybe beyond? What are your sort of expectations of that?
I think the way I tend to look at that is look at Formula One. I don't know if you're aware, David. I love my Formula One, and they have a lot of advanced development. And what happens with that development at the very high end is it drips down into consumer eventually. So that's where we got ABS from, hybrid turbos, etc. That all came from the elite of motorsport. I think we'll have exactly the same with the informal contact centre. The stuff we're seeing now at the very high end, your really good AI type stuff. I know we've all got bots, and that's quite a standard thing now. But there's some very, very good AI. I think we'll see a lot more of that to help the agents out. We've got something coming along in our new product called XBs that has this wonderful integration where it will show you if you've talked too long. So in the sales process, it'll come up on a flag and say, you've just spoken for too long. You're outside the matrix of what a salesperson should be speaking. To make sure you've got that balance right between talking and listening. That sort of automatic integration into solutions, I think we're going to see a lot more of that. So we've got the bots, we've got augmented reality. I think we're really good in the future as well. Maybe even some VR stuff, so people can feel that interaction with their customers as we get less face-to-face stuff in the future. So I think that the stuff that we're seeing at the very, very elite of the industry, we'll see down into every single product in the future. And I think that's the way it tends to develop, doesn't it?
Fantastic. So we're at the end of today's session. Ian, Rob, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much for your time. Really enjoyed it. Thank you.
And cheers, David. Thank you for watching. You've been watching me, David Dungay, on UC Today. If you liked today's conversation, please give us a like and a share on social media. It's greatly appreciated. That's it from me. See you next time.